Hello, Assalamualaikum. My name is Nurul Amalia Binti Rosli, and today I'll be talking on ASEAN and women empowerment for my Asean Foreign Policy subject. So before we go deeply into women empowerment in ASEAN, let me briefly explain the background of ASEAN. ASEAN, or the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, was established in 1967, which aimed for economic growth, social development, and peace and stability in the region. And the region meant here includes Thailand, Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia, Brunei, the Philippines, Laos, Cambodia, Myanmar, and Vietnam. At the 10th ASEAN Summit in November 2004, the ASEAN leaders adopted the Vietnam Action Program, in which promote the awareness, education, and protection of human rights, and which later led to the establishment of ASEAN Commission on the Promotion and Protection of the Rights of Women and Children, ACWC, in 2010. On top of that, all of the 10 member states also have ratified the Convention on all forms of discrimination against women, and where the convention is basically the international guideline for ASEAN Commission on Women and Children. The ASEAN Commission on Women and Children is mandated to promote the implementation of international and ASEAN instruments on the rights of women and children. It also advocates on behalf of women and children, especially the most vulnerable and marginalized, and encourage member states to improve their situation. So what exactly has the ASEAN done for women's empowerment in its member states? In this video, I'll just mention 3 aspects in progress of women's empowerment, which are the political rights, education, and employment. First and foremost, women's political rights. Women's political rights are articulated in Convention on all forms of discrimination against women, namely Article 7 on political and public life, which provides that states parties shall take all appropriate measures to eliminate discrimination against women in the political and public life of the country. And in particular, the right of men should on equal terms with women in terms of, first, to vote in all elections and public referenda and to be eligible for election to all publicly elected bodies. Second, to participate in the formulation of government policy and the implementation thereof, and to hold public office and perform all public functions at all levels of government. And third, to participate in non-governmental organizations and associations concerned with the public and political life of the country. Some countries are coming close to the target of 30% women in parliament, such as Singapore, Laos, and Vietnam, based on the 2013 data of the ASEAN Statistical Yearbook. However, Brunei, which practices a monarchy type of political system, has never had a parliament. On the whole, the ASEAN member states fall short of the global target of 30% of seats in parliament to be occupied by women. In Laos, women's public representation at the national level had a big leap from 9% in the 1992 National Assembly to 25%, in which 33 out of 132 seats were represented by women in the 7th National Assembly since 2011. Next, let's talk about education. Gender equality in education in the ASEAN member states is close to being achieved except for Cambodia, Laos, and Myanmar. Gender parity in literacy rates and primary completion rates are reaching equality, but adult literacy rates and female literacy rates are comparatively low. The Cambodia, Laos, Myanmar, and Vietnam countries will need to raise their secondary completion rates so that students can transition into vocational, technical, and university opportunities. On the other hand, it is noteworthy that in Singapore, female literacy rate is higher than the male literacy rate. Almost all children finish primary education in Malaysia, Indonesia, Singapore, Vietnam, and Brunei Darussalam. Thirdly, employment. Eliminating poverty in the ASEAN region is one of the main objectives for promoting women's economic rights. However, There are consistently less female than male participants in the ASEAN labor market. Between 2010 to 2013, the labor force participation rates remain steady at slightly more than 70%. Nevertheless, the rate for women was around 59%, while that for men was about 82% in the region. This implies that there is a lot of untapped human potential of the female population in these countries. The ASEAN member state must sustain the closing of the gender gaps and must be more conscious of the need to scale up the skill of its citizens, especially segments of women. Women's full participation in politics is needed for gender issues to be placed at the center of the government's political agenda. And given that women still experience disparities in wage levels as well as in employment and business opportunities, ASEAN economic integration programs need to anticipate and address the possible negative impacts of this strategic direction on the lives of women in the region. That's all from me. Thank you for listening. Assalamualaikum.